Welcome to Faces of Sterling. I'm Terry Ackerman, Town Administrator, your host for Faces of Sterling, and today we have four gentlemen with us to talk about our new solar project in town. We have Sean Hamilton, General Manager of the Sterling Municipal Light Department. Welcome, Sean.
Good morning, Terry.
And we have with us Tom Tuffy, VP of Development for Community Energy Solar.
Good morning.
Welcome, Tom. And we have Reed Wills, Vice President of Duke Energy Renewables.
Good morning, Terry.
And we have with us Doug Davis, the landowner of Davis Farmland and Mega Maze.
Thanks
Welcome.
for having us.
So Sean, let's start with you. Can you describe the project? What is Sterling Solar?
Sterling Solar, it's a 2 megawatt or two 1 megawatt project, or each, as a megawatt is 1 million watts per project, and two of them are located down off of Wiles Road in Sterling. It's a photovoltaic project that produces energy used throughout the town of Sterling. It's a collaboration between Community Energy Services, the Sterling Light Department, Duke Energy, the Davis family, that began in April of 2011 and came online in early 2013. It's been a very, very good project for the town of Sterling, for the ratepayers. It's worked very well.
So Tom, how did you choose to locate in Sterling, and how did you choose the specific site at Davis Farm?
Oh, Terry, that's a story I love to tell. Let's start at 50,000 feet, and then we'll come on down to the site. At 50,000 feet, we first need to have a state that has a good policy. So at the moment, we're developing projects in Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Indiana, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Puerto Rico, Colorado, and I forget where else. But we need a good policy. So that's the first thing that brought us to Massachusetts. Then we're community energy. We prefer to work with smaller entities, town entities, municipal light districts, versus the large utilities. We just think it fits our culture better. So we came into Massachusetts and we found three that we wanted to work with. And very frankly, we like Sterling. We had seen Sean's work at Templeton. We saw what he was doing at Sterling. We thought it was progressive. We also thought he was tough but fair, and we kind of like tough but fair. So we then came to Sterling. That then brings us to looking at the circuits in Sterling, because we need to be in the vicinity of those circuits.
Right.
So we then come to a fairly sophisticated, it's a high-tech and high-touch approach. The high-tech is computer-based, and we can find out an awful lot about land with the computer-based approach, and then the high-touch is boots on the ground. So we had some 30 sites that we came to with boots on the ground before we came to this site, which came out best. And then we met Doug and his father. Who wouldn't like Doug and his father? So it was kind of like the bells started going off, and we said, this feels pretty good. Then we had to dig in. And we dig in on the environmental side, we dig in on soils, we dig in on the power system, we dig in on the engineering, and we make sure that we can develop a project that we're all going to be proud of. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we did. I think we came.
Absolutely.
So 50,000 on down to, we now have a project we can all be proud of.
What are some of the benefits to the ratepayers and the taxpayers in Sterling?
I think there's a lot of benefits. This project brings a lot of benefits to both the ratepayers and the taxpayers, and primarily to the ratepayers. It's a part of a progressive portfolio, power portfolio that we're building that includes almost 35% renewable energy this past May, and which is, with the state looking for 20% by 2020, puts Sterling way ahead of the curve. The rate we negotiated working with Community Energy was a was a very favorable rate to the ratepayers, for now and for long term. And it also proves as a great hedge against the rising transmission rates. It's located what they call behind the meter. It's located in town, so we don't have to transmit the power from any other sources. It's grown and produced right in Sterling, so it stays here. Transmission costs are omitted from this power, which is a great savings to the ratepayers. The pilot payment, I think, is a payment in lieu of taxes. The pilot payment negotiated by the town. I think that helps the taxpayers, quite a bit on a piece of land that was growing hay earlier is now producing energy and funds for the town. So I think environmental aspects, I think Tom was probably better suited to speak to those.
Well, I think Sean's right on all the financial aspects. I think there's a branding aspect here too, Terry. It brands the township, it brands the light department as progressive. There's towns across the country that, are interested in doing this type of thing. There's the financial reason, there's the bigger environmental reason, and it all comes from the basic fact that there's no fuel used in this project. When there's no fuel, that means there's no emissions, there's no carbon contributing to climate change, there's no cost escalation in the future. 15, 20 years from now, everyone's going to understand financially what this project did, because fuel costs will be up so much more. And remember, this project is contributing energy at the time it's most needed, and therefore the prices are highest. So that's a summer afternoon when the demand is terrific, prices go way up. This is a very good deal, not just financially, but in what it's doing for the environment and the globe.
So Doug, why did Davis Farm decide to get involved in this project? And why did you decide to use your land for the project?
Well, the timing was perfect. We had just put in our own private solar array on a barn roof at the farm. And we knew the benefits of solar, not just for us, but for the town. We'd done a lot of work with Sean already on that. And the benefits are huge, and to the town and of course the environment. When Community Energy first approached us, it was right about the time that we had our grand opening for our little solar array on the roof, and so it was perfect timing. They told us what they were interested in, and we knew from our land we already had 2 sites that were about 25 acres. Perfect southerly exposure, minimal neighbors, and if we did have some neighbors, they were on the northerly side. So I mean, really no downfall, and both of those plots of land had large power lines right in the vicinity.
Reed, tell us how Duke Energy got involved in the project.
Well, you heard Tom describe how Community Energy goes out and creates the opportunities for people to come in, invest, build, and operate projects. That's what Duke Energy does with our partners. And we've been involved in many projects. In this case, we're talking to different developers who've created these opportunities, and we're looking for a certain type of project. It has to make sense from a financial standpoint. It has to make sense from an environmental and safety standpoint. And then, same point that Tom touched on, we got to feel comfortable in that community that these are people we can work with for the long term. We're long-term investors. That's who we are. We're going to be around for 20 years, and we want to make sure that everybody understands what's expected from them. It's a very open community here. We've had great discussions and relations thanks to the good work Tom did with Sean and with Doug. And with you, Terry, as part of the town. And that's really what makes the difference for us, is if we're going to be here for a long period of time, we want to make sure everybody's expectations are met.
So Reed, why does Duke Energy want to invest in solar projects?
Well, Duke Energy is involved in all different types of generation. I work for Duke Energy Renewables, and we're very involved in wind and solar. We have close to 2,000 megawatts of renewable energy and over 100 megawatts of solar. And our approach is to work with partners to have successful projects, both for us as an investor and for the community. And in this case, our partners are Canadian Solar, who manufactures panels. It's Community Energy, who actually was the first person on the job, as I mentioned before. And of course, we work with our customers and our landowners. And the point with solar energy is it has no emissions. They're generally very well accepted by the towns. They're very quiet, so we're good neighbors. And we can also help out with the ratepayers in terms of bringing affordable, clean energy into the town of Sterling.
Tom, can you give us a brief tutorial on how solar energy works?
Well, Terry, when I was a kid, I was a firm addict to Mr. Wizard. And Mr. Wizard taught me that when you take a copper wire and pass a magnet around it, it produces a flow of electricity. That's how most of our power is produced. So, coal, nuclear, natural gas, which there's a lot of now, oil, all heat water to produce steam, and that fluid turns the turbine. So does hydro, so does wind. Solar is the exception, and it's pretty cool because there's no moving parts.
Right.
It is a matrix of material that is polysilicon, consisting primarily of sand. And when the sun strikes it, don't get too excited, it excites an electron that jumps out of its atomic orbit, and that electron is captured and then begins to flow. Step two, we now bring in, not Mr. Wizard, but we bring in Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse. And Edison wanted electricity transmitted with alternating current, Westinghouse direct current. Westinghouse lost, Edison won. So we have to convert the direct current from our solar project to alternating current on site with a device called an inverter.
That's interesting.
We then take and step up the voltage a bit so that we can send that to Sean. And we are typically sending it to Sean when the sun is shining and his energy prices are the highest when he has to buy. So it becomes even a more better deal for him.
So it seems like solar has a very bright future, pun intended there. Would you guys like to talk about that?
I think Tom would be best to speak to what the evolution of solar, because it's come such a long way in the last few years. I think that made it more advantageous than it was a few years ago.
Well, solar technologies have been around since the 1960s. They started in the space program, but they were very expensive. 10 and 12 years ago, I was dealing more with wind because I thought solar was just very expensive. We've now seen, like in other electronics, the costs have come down. So the costs today are like 15% of what they were 6 and 8 years ago.
Yeah.
They're still coming down. So part of this project for people in the town, keep your eye on solar. It's not going to take the world over, but it has more and more of a role in your life with power in the future.
Right. And excellent for climate change, right? No emissions.
It's great to have an energy source that has no emissions, and as someone alluded to earlier, you're not at risk for rising prices. So that's really something I think customers really benefit from.
Absolutely.
Duke Energy Renewables builds projects and owns projects for utilities like Sterling, but we're also a utility ourselves. What we find special about solar and the growth opportunity is it touches everybody. So it can actually go on the roof of your house.
Right.
It can go on the roof of the barn. And it can also be used to create commercial quantities of power that were large enough to make a difference for a whole town like Sterling. And in that sense, there's really no other form of generation like it, generation of electricity. So we're really excited about the future of solar. We think it's going to become a bigger part of everybody's life.
And as far as being clean for just the environment here in Sterling, this is a power plant in the middle of Sterling. It was a hayfield, taking the power from the sun, making hay. Now it's taking the power of the sun, making electricity. After this project has run its course, this will be a hayfield again. There's no other type of power where you could just remove it and cleanly go right back to producing a completely natural, rural setting and crop like this power plant.
Terrific.
You know, the other piece of this, there's people all around the world that are concerned about climate change and concerned about what to do, and it's a great big problem. And folks here in Sterling can say, you know what, we've lit one little candle.
Right.
we've done something constructive.
And the power industry side is, the demand for power is rising, and we need other sources of power. Coal has come under fire lately. They're actually shutting plants down. We've seen what happens with nuclear. These renewable projects are part of the answer that we have to move forward. As solar production advances, I think you'll see more and more of that, especially as storage capabilities become available. I think you'll be one of your prime power sources in the future.
So moving forward, Sean, how would you say this project positions the Sterling Municipal Light Department?
The solar project, the solar is a big part of our, as I mentioned earlier, a big part of our power portfolio. We have a group of hydro contracts, solar contracts, nuclear and gas, and we mix them all because different areas are influenced by different things. The solar, because of the solar long-term contract, as Tom mentioned earlier, we know a fixed price going forward for 20 years and what that price is going to be. We also know that as transmission, as I mentioned earlier, transmission costs, it's a great hedge against the transmission cost. And one thing that I recently discovered is that Sterling nationally probably ranks as one of the top towns in the country as watts per customer. Based on a recent survey by SEPA, was one of the national solar organizations. So Sterling's in great shape with our solar, with our hydro, and all our projects. But this project, it's a little special because it is behind the meter and there's no transmission. Puts us in great position.
So, gentlemen, is the site open to the public?
Well, Terry, as Tom explained, there's a lot of equipment that's involved with this, and at the end of the day, we are creating high voltage electricity to serve the town of Sterling. So what we've done is we've fenced the area. It's got a high fence on it because we want to protect the public and make sure they're not exposed to any hazards. So the answer is no, we don't have it open for tours, but there is information that the community can get, and they can get that from Sterling, and they can get it from Davis Farm.
And up at Davis Farmland, we actually have a solar display, an educational children's solar display for children and their family that visit the farm.
Great.
It's got a great big TV monitor with a live feed of exactly what percentage of solar is being produced at any given minute. So you can kind of sit there and watch this TV screen and notice a cloud go overhead and see it go down a little, and then see the bright skies and see it go right on over where we're really happy when it's over like this.
Cool.
And there's also other great things to relate it to children, like the fact that the Sterling Solar Farm produces enough power in a day so that they could play 50,000 hours of video games.
Wow.
Or they could even watch 150,000 hours of TV shows per day. Very impressive, and it's great to relate it right down to the kids and their families.
Definitely.
Great.
So if folks want to learn more, they have questions, how can they learn more?
They could stop into the office. It's located at 50 Main Street here in downtown Sterling. They could call us at the office, 978-422-8267, or they could go on our website. That's www.energysterling.com.
I want to thank you four gentlemen for coming today and being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
It's
you.
been great.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much for
Terry.
having us there.
And I want to thank the crew at SLCT and thank the viewers for watching. I'm your host, Terry Ackerman, for Faces of Sterling. We'll see you again next time.